Rushworth is joining me here on set. Must be time for the French newspapers. He's starting off with a story about working conditions, aren't you, Nick?
Hi to you, Stuart. And yes, that story there about business issues and the whole question of working conditions, not in France, but actually abroad, internationally, Stuart, for big French companies. And there's legislation now in the pipeline for these companies to be vigilant about what its subsidiaries and suppliers are doing. There you can see the headline for Libération. Their bosses should make more of an effort. It's saying that, yes, there's some legislation now in the pipeline to address issues about conditions for workers abroad, but they're not doing enough, bosses in France, and the legislation isn't going far enough.
Yeah, it all dates back, doesn't it, to those events in Bangladesh. I'm sure we all remember them back in 2013 when that clothing factory collapsed.
Well, there were absolutely extraordinary scenes in Bangladesh, in the capital, Dhaka, in 2013. Of course, what we saw there was hundreds of people killed. And in France, that really rang alarm bells a lot, with lots of press coverage, with the French papers really pointing to the fact, well, you've got so many cheap clothes available in hypermarkets around France, but where do they come from? The inside pages of Libération is looking at the plight of one worker, a Nepalese worker who's in Malaysia, and he's saying that he's enduring terrible working conditions. His passport has been taken away from him, he can't get it back. 20% of his salary is docked off for admin costs, accommodation. That accommodation is dormitories with people just piled up, dozens of people in a space of 30 square metres. So Libération really leading on that quite strongly, urging better conditions for people abroad who are making things for French people.
OK, that's Libération. Over at Le Figaro now, they're focusing on defence issues today, aren't they?
A completely different story, and across the board in the French papers this Thursday, we do have a lot of different stories. This is about defence, and there you can see the aircraft carrier, the Charles de Gaulle. And Le Figaro is arguing that France now is really spearheading defence issues for the European Union. It's taking more than its fair share of the burden. That's the quoting there of the Jean-Yves Le Drian, who is the French defence minister. Now, it's headlining that France is maintaining its defence effort while other countries are ineffectively disarming. It points to the UK, where 30,000 soldiers could be scaled back this year. Germany only spends around 1% of its GDP on defence. So deployment, of course, has taken place with the Charles de Gaulle in Iraq against the Islamic State organization, but France is also getting ready to beef up its operations in Africa to combat Boko Haram. So a message there that's saying that France is doing more than its fair share.
And you pulled out the editorial, haven't you, in Le Figaro, which they're basically saying that the threats that Europe face mean that defence is more of a priority.
Well, the editorial is saying Europeans must really stand together. You've got all kinds of threats, not solely the Islamic State organization in Iraq and Syria, but you've also got threats such as the Ukraine situation, with Russia being aggressive towards Kiev and also towards NATO. Really, that editorial really arguing, no, don't go the way of a European army with a European flag flying over it, but just really make sure that EU nations can work as one, really, with this.
Of course, one of those threats is the Islamic State organisation. One paper is focusing on a French boy, around 10 years old, could be an ISIS executioner. Terrible story.
It is a terrible story, Stuart. This is about a boy seen executing an alleged Israeli spy in an Islamic State organization propaganda video posted late Tuesday online. Now, Le Parisien-Aujourd-hui-en-France there is looking at that and asking, is he an executioner, and who is he? Now, it's saying that the video that was posted online was in fact on the 3rd anniversary of the death of Mohamed Merah in Toulouse in the south of France 3 years ago, as I said. Now, Le Monde is wondering, well, who exactly is this boy, and who is with him? Could it be Sebri Assid, the half-brother of Mohamed Merah? There we can see Le Monde there with that piece. And the French authorities are engaged in identifying who is who in the video and are being extremely prudent about the whole process, because there have been problems with this in the past, so they're not jumping to conclusions. But at this point, it seems that the boy could possibly be the stepson of Sebri Asid, who is the half-brother of Mohamed Merah. So the French link there very strong.
Nick, thank you very much. Nick Rushworth, the French papers here on France 24.